Hey, Totri.
Yeah.
Do you remember Arizona State's most recent football season?
I do, and I miss it, Erik.
It's pretty great.
Happy Hump Day, and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by the one, the only Erik Ruby himself. We have Captain Redbeard behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Guys, do us a solid, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. We got a ton to get into today. January 22nd. Ruby, what's on the menu? ASU football.
Yeah.
ASU basketball.
Yeah.
College football playoff.
Yeah.
And maybe even more.
Maybe some shenanigans along the way. If we're lucky.
I love me some shenanigans.
You're a big shenanigans
I'm a
guy.
big shenanigan
You
guy.
kind of like, you look like you embody shenanigans.
I ooze shenanigans.
You ooze shenanigans,
Yeah.
for sure.
How do you feel about shenanigans, Captain Redbeard?
We love shenanigans.
We love
on
shenanigans.
This ship.
Yeah,
Nobody
we do.
embodies
We do.
shenanigans
We love
more than
shenanigans
Captain
on this
Redbeard.
ship. It's what we do. We got Ben in the chat, John in the chat. Say what's up. If you're here, grab a snack, grab a drink. Let's get into some PHNX Sun Devils content.
Something else on the menu. We brought it up if you missed last night's post-game show. Big win. Big win.
Big win.
For Arizona State basketball, taking
What a
down
win.
number 23 West Virginia for their second Big 12 win. Of course, now they're going to be playing Iowa State this coming Saturday. But there's a big game on Saturday, February 1st.
Is there?
Taking on the Arizona Wildcats at Desert Financial Arena. And we are doing a takeover and pregame party on February 1st. We're going to be doing some brunch, a little brunch action around 9:30 a.m. Come hang out with us and the PHNX Wildcats podcast as well.
Look, there's limited tickets, so we need to ensure that every Arizona State fan gets these tickets over the Wildcat fans. We absolutely have to make sure that this happens. Again, go phnx.com, go to the events tab, and boom. From there, you guys can secure your tickets. And we'll see you guys on the 1st. Should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Be there, have some fun with us. Make sure that no U of A fans enter the watch along or the watch party. Make sure his little red, white, and blue is in that arena and make it all filled with maroon and gold. Take over in Tempe, as John says.
I love it.
In the chat. Big shenanigans happening.
Always.
On February 1st.
I mean, when the three of us are together, guys, there's always
the
shenanigans.
three of us plus the Wildcats crew.
Oof. Always shenanigans.
Like last night, both games going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, it is what it is, right? Let's go ahead. Let's start talking ASU football. I know it's late January, but that's what a good college football season will do. It'll give
Never
you
stops.
College football content for days on end. And that's what we got because Arizona State, the miraculous, magical first season in the Big 12, finished with the highest ranking in the AP Top 25 to finish a season for the Sun Devils in nearly 30 years. They finished number 7 in the AP Top 25 after winning the Big 12 this season, after nearly beating Texas in the college football playoff quarterfinals. The Arizona State Sun Devils, the team picked to finish dead last in the Big 12, finished the year number 7 in the country. Are you kidding me? I mean, what a perfect bow, I feel like, for the season is this, right? Is a ranking this high. Obviously, you would have loved to continue the magical run.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you say duh. You'd rather win the national championship.
Yes.
You'd rather be 6-5, 4-3, 2-1. Right? Like, sure. But at that point, we're just getting greedy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I still hate that the Texas game ended that way.
Yeah,
it
of
still
course.
haunts me. I don't like it. I think there were some things that were called poorly.
Or not called at all.
Exactly. But at this point now, like, you are 21 days later. That's 3 weeks. And it's time for us to look back at this season with a positive outlook. Because if we ended this season, like, genuinely speaking, after all of our preseason expectations, 7th in the Big 12, we'd be like, that'd be a good
That'd
season.
be a solid season.
That'd been a good season.
But
Look, Arizona State's on track, right?
Yeah.
7th in the Big 12. 7th in the freaking country, man. The country.
The only teams ranked higher than Arizona State are Georgia, Penn State, Texas, Oregon, Notre Dame, Ohio State.
And I think you have an argument. Come
on, man!
You have
Come on!
You have an argument against Georgia.
You do. You do have an argument.
I think you have an argument for top 6.
How
Five
sweet
is
it
tough.
How sweet
5 is
it
tough.
is.
But yeah, it's incredible. And it's only hopefully going to be built upon.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the big part about all of it, where you don't want this to be a season where you look back. Like, when we talk about, the 1996 season, right? And finishing 4th in AP voting and the highest finish since then. Do we talk about the 2000s season, right? The 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005? Like, we don't. We talk about 1996.
Yeah. The year.
Let's make this one of the years, right? And I think that's the most exciting part, is that you're not leaving the season and going, well, that was a fun flash in the pan, one and done. There's a recipe for them to continue and emulate similar success. Like, if I told you Arizona State ended up as a top 10 team in the country next year, you wouldn't be shocked.
No. And that's in reality, like, that's the shift in expectation, right?
Yeah.
Is like you said, if at the start of the year we would have showed you this, it would have been like, okay, did everybody else stop playing football?
Was there a massive earthquake?
Are we back in the NCAA scandal? Like, what did we do this time? Who did we pay?
What did we do this time?
What did we cheat? But now the expectation is kind of like what you said, right? Is we look back at the 1996 season. We look back in the mid 2010s where you had a couple 10-win seasons, right? And now you have this. You have the 2024 season. Everybody that was a part of this is going to remember this season, right? As one of the greatest college football seasons in history. Not just Arizona State history, but college football history, because there's icons behind it, right? There's characters behind it. There's Kenny Dillingham, one of the youngest coaches in college football that people fell in love with, that players fell in love with, right? There's Skattebo, an absolute just a wrecking ball of a running back that nobody outside of Tempe had heard of until the Big 12 title game. Like, there's Sam Levitt, there's Jordan Tyson defensively, there's Xavier Alford, there's Shamari Simmons. Like, there's so many fun players on this team that were able to really beat the odds to have the season that they did. And that's what makes it so exciting. So yes, I think you can still have moving forward, like, hey, this started it, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg of what Arizona State can be, is a top 10 team year over year with Kenny Dillingham. And now moving forward, the expectation is shifted. 7th in the Big 12 is not where this team is aiming anymore.
No.
It's not where the fan base is aiming anymore. You need to be in the Big 12 title game moving forward. Those are your expectations.
Yeah, you need to be, listen, it's hard, right? Like, what we're saying is difficult. It's very difficult to do.
But it's been, you've proven that you can do it.
Yes, you've proven you can do it in 1 year, but sustained success is a lot harder than
right, it is.
Individual success.
It's the difference between great and good.
Yeah, like requesting that Arizona State emulates a similar season win-loss record success-wise every single year. It's a high demand.
It is.
Right? Like, that is truly probably 5 programs in the country can always win are always in the conference championship game. Right?
Yeah.
Alabama was not in the conference championship game.
No.
This year.
No, they were not.
What you're asking is, hey, compete every. I think you need to at least be in that conversation, like a perennial.
Ohio State, I think was in the.
It was Oregon
and Penn State. Yeah,
you have to at least be a consistent top 25 team, right? At least, like, that to me has to be the floor. Is like bottom of the top 25s
Yeah, Colorado. You got to be Colorado as
who
your
finished and came in at 25. But your ceiling is now like, hey, you
college
like,
football playoff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is the jump between unranked and ranked and 20s to college football playoffs. I think that second jump is usually harder.
Yeah.
Now, Arizona State did the whole damn jump all at once, skip steps.
Love it.
And whoop, right to the front of the line.
Yeah.
But going forward, I think we can't walk into next season saying automatic walk to the Natty.
No,
Right?
absolutely not. And I think that's, the teams that are able to do that year over year are so slim, right? You could probably pick 2-3 programs, every single year, starting the year, that you're like, hey, the expectation is either the national championship or the semifinals, right? Every year, Ohio State is in that conversation. Every year, it feels like either Bama or Georgia is in that conversation.
Yeah.
And then usually there is a random team. Like Oregon this year was, a team that a lot of people expected to go the distance. So, I'm not saying that is the expectation, but I agree. I think that the setting
it could be our
floor,
desire.
Yeah, the
right?
floor and the ceiling are much different now for Arizona State with Kenny Dillingham at the helm. And I think that's something that people didn't know, right? Is when you have a new coach, and Kenny is still a new coach in my mind, right? He's just now moving to year 3.
Not just in your mind, but like factually.
Factually, yes.
Yeah.
Like you didn't know what the ceiling or the floor was, right? Of like, okay, this is a good season. I would say you still don't really know, right? This past year was just the second year. We always said that year 3 was the year that this team was supposed to be good, right? You can go back and watch those shows that we did when Kenny was hired. You can go back to the post-game shows we did when this team was bad, right? And we always said that the third year is going to be year that the recruiting cycle that Arizona State is really starting to get into, that those guys and those relationships are going to start to come to fruition, that the guys that they want to develop are going to turn into those stars. This is the year, right? And now we've seen what I think a lot of people think the ceiling can be is a quarterfinal appearance. But I'm not even sure that that is the ceiling of where Kenny can take this program. Again, if you want to be great, you have to be consistently good. And that is, like you said, you have to be a top 25 team every single season. And I think that we've seen with the success last year, right, which people are maybe calling a flash in the pan, whatever, on a national perspective, I think shows you that this team has the right guy at the helm and they got the right guy in the athletic department to continue this success.
That's the most important part. Cam Skattebo was the most important player of the season. The most important cog to Arizona State's success is Kenny Dillingham.
Yeah.
And the staff that he's curated and created to help carry out his vision and to implement their vision as well, which is usually aligning. John says, other than us, TCU and Cincy are the only teams to make the college football playoffs in the Big 12.
And both those schools got spanked, by the way.
Yeah, and it says, taking what they were set up for going into the following season and what we are set up to keep being successful, right? You saw that TCU team post college football playoffs. We didn't know. We're like, are they going to be good at all? They lost a ton of players.
Yeah.
Same thing with Cincinnati. And they lost a coach too.
Yeah.
Right? Arizona State has the same coordinators, has most of the same assistants under those coordinators, has the same head coach, has the same starting quarterback, has majority of the same offensive line, majority of the same offensive weapons minus Cam Skattebo. You got new weapons. You got new weapons to try and help replace losing the guy.
Yeah.
You basically have your entire starting defense minus Shamari Simmons.
10 of the 11 starters.
Might be your most important defender that you're losing. You might be losing your most important player on both sides of the ball from this season in Shamari and Cam, but you're returning everybody else who was really good and you're adding more talent.
Yeah.
Right. And you've made transfer additions and you have guys that you're betting on being young and growing. Your Sam Levitts of the world, your Kyson Browns of the world, your Keith Abneys, your Javen Robinsons of the world. Like you have all of these things that you can look ahead and say, how does Arizona State not just fall down? It's not just a matter of luck. It's not just a matter of coaching. It's a mix of coaching, talent, city, athletic department investment, right? Like Arizona State sees this as a future opportunity. I think TCU and Cincinnati felt like they were just kind of in the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's when we have these conversations about where this team is going to be. Right. I love that John brought up TCU and Cincinnati. TCU, after they went to the national championship the following year, they went 5-7, right? Going off of a 13-2 season. Cincinnati, the year after they went to the college football playoff, they went 9-4, right? So still a little bit of a down year for Cincinnati. Not as bad as TCU was, right? But I think the difference between having the season that TCU had versus like a season that Oregon and some of these other schools have year over year, right, is can you replace those guys, right? We just said, and you just said, you're maybe losing your best two guys on offense and defense, definitely on offense, in Cam Skattebo and then Shamari Simmons on the back end for your defense. The difference between what TCU did that one year versus what Oregon, Texas, all those other schools is, hey, we got another guy, right? We got another guy that wanted to come to this school, that has proven themselves, that we feel like fits the system and is going to go out and ball out, right? TCU didn't have those guys after they lost everybody. Mm-hmm. Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, they always do. That's the difference between a flash in the pan and a successful 10-year head coach.
Yeah.
So I think Arizona State has the guys moving forward to make this a program that is consistently top 15, consistently top 25 at worst.
Yeah.
That is hey, we're going to run it back every single season. And every year the mentality is we're fighting to be in the college football playoff.
And there's another thing. I want to have us continue this conversation. There is another reason why Arizona State is built differently than that Cincinnati team, that TCU team, and other teams that have been flash in the pans, short-term college football playoff contenders. And I'm going to let you know what that is. But first, we take this quick break. Talking numbers and rankings today, here's a number you want to remember, 480-776-5231. That, of course, is the number that you want to know if you are looking to buy a home this year or any time in the future here in the great state of Arizona. And, of course, that is the Carol Royce Real Estate Team, family-owned, locally operated through 3 generations of family members that have served the Valley rigorously. They know everything about the Valley. Like, it's the back of your hand. Look at the back of your hand.
They've been doing it a while.
Look at the back of your hand.
Yeah.
You know every detail of the back of your hand. That's how Carol and her team knows the Valley, which is why she can't just make you we're going to make you the right deal. No, we're going to make you the guaranteed one. You can rest easy knowing that you can buy your home and love it. Or Carol will be like, okay, I'll just buy it back from you.
That's a big thing. You got to be able
all
to
the way
love
back.
your home.
It's like you go and you buy a gift and you get the gift receipt, except for it's a house. Like, who does that? Carol does that. If you're considering buying a home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. Move up to one of their listings and they'll buy your home for cash. Have questions, call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com.
Look, finding a house is important, right?
It is.
Or I guess finding a home. You want a home, not a house.
Yes.
Right? Look, on the flip side of that, maybe you're in the market for a new car, right? Not everybody's looking for a house right now. Maybe you're looking for a new vehicle. Sanderson Ford, they've got you covered. Guys, drive into the new year in a new Ford from Sanderson Ford. New year, new vehicle, and a great start to 2025. You guys can take the whole family in style and save $11,000 off a new Expedition, or you can hit the trails or make your own in a new Bronco Badlands. I'm going to stand 10 toes on the fact that is the best named vehicle
it's a good one.
In the business, not just at Sanderson Ford, but everywhere. Are you kidding me? A Bronco Badlands for the best deals in 2025. Choose Sanderson Ford for a no hassle, no pressure, and of course, no nonsense experience. And get more for your trade with easy on-the-spot financing. Drive into the new year in a new Ford from Arizona's most awarded Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford.
You know what Bronco Badlands sounds like? Like a fighter name, like a WWE wrestler.
Bronco Badlands.
Hailing from Phoenix, Arizona.
Fighting
out of the red corner. Bronco Badlands.
Yeah, I love it.
Sorry.
Oh, that was good. Hey, that was good. That was solid stuff. I think we have a future.
My eyes are tearing up.
Yeah. Did Bronco Badlands just get you emotional?
I'm also tearing up because of why I know Arizona State is much better prepared for long-term success than those TCU and Cincinnati teams. Those were teams meant to win that year, right? Those are teams that, like you mentioned, like you don't have like kind of these resources or the new players coming in.
Yeah.
Arizona State is a program, like you mentioned, like next year was supposed to be the good year. This is a program that has done everything so far for the long term.
Yeah.
They just have also happened to see short-term success, which helps, right? Like you already had the foundation laid for the long term. You already had Kenny and coaches and culture and like, hey, if we do things right.
Kenny, coaches and culture.
If
Ugh.
we do things right,
Ugh.
if we take care of business the way that we want us to,
Mhm.
and that we feel like college football needs right now, down the line, people will recognize, and eventually we'll have this slow burn, so slow build to where they actually ended up getting at the end of the second season. And then you think about once you get through that slow burn, that slow build, and you get that success, then everything comes easier after that.
Yeah.
Well, you just saw that success about 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 years early, right? Like if Kenny Dillingham turned this program into a championship contender in 7 to 8 years, we'd call him a massive success. Like one of the best coaches that you've seen in college football.
They were champions this year.
And that's, but no. But like, again, we're talking as like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they were 7th in the Big 12, we'd be like, this was a team that has always been built for longevity.
Yeah.
Around the idea of keeping your
Around
players.
the idea of longevity.
Around your, like the idea of keeping players and having players love being here.
Yeah.
Now you just so happen to get to a point where you're going to get better players. You're going to get more recognition. You're going to get more money invested in you, which means more return when it comes to on the football field product. Like, they've just accelerated what was already a long-term vision, but they're not sacrificing anything for it. They're not selling their soul to Deion Sanders for a quick fix turnaround, and then he's going to just dump you on the side so he can go coach the Las Vegas Raiders and his son at the next level. Like, that's not what's happening here, right?
The Raiders, dude.
Like, you are set up for long-term success and short-term success. That's rare.
You are.
Like the schools we talked about, Georgia, Bama, like the ones that are always at the top or at least competing. Like it was a down year from Alabama. Where did they end up?
Alabama, their quote-unquote down year was missing the college football playoff, finishing at
17th in the country.
17th in the country at 9-4.
Alabama 9-4.
But you also have to remember that's an SEC team.
The 17th best team in the country.
Yeah.
Their floor. This feels like the worst season that they've had in a very, very long time.
It is.
A 17 in the country.
They also have a new coach, so that's something you have to take into
No,
consideration.
but what I'm saying, this isn't like a point against Alabama.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is the only schools that you look at that you say, man, they have a long-term plan that feels like it's, executable, and they have a short-term vision for success, great coaching, good play. Like, it's those schools.
Yeah,
It's those schools that are always up there.
You know what's funny?
What?
Is Georgia and Arizona State actually tied with votes, by the way.
So what was the tiebreaker? Conference?
Oh, no, they didn't. I misread. They're 100. Georgia had 100 more.
Oh, I was about to say.
Yeah.
That's
100 more points.
That's
at
a
least.
pretty big misread.
Yeah. Well, look at it. You look at it. I don't know why the dictionary's coming up. Can you see how quick scroll, how that was?
Yeah.
I was like, wait a second. We tied. We did not. We, in fact, did not tie. I want to know, everybody in the chat, what your favorite moment from this past season was. Like, was it the Big 12 title game? Was it seeing Arizona State try and make a comeback against Texas? Was it maybe something different? Was it
being
Kansas
able to
State?
shit talk the entire time?
Was it, spanking U of A? Like, there are so many great moments. I want to know everybody's favorite moment in the chat from this past season. Literally anything from ASU football. And I think a big part of trying to continue that success year over year, right, is now there is a larger format for all of these teams to try and have that success, right? Obviously, individually within your own season. But now that the playoff is a 12-team playoff, again, you saw Ohio State win a championship against Notre Dame, right? We haven't had those two teams face off in a national championship, like, I don't know if ever, right? Normally, we're so accustomed to seeing an Alabama, a Georgia, every year against somebody else, right?
Yeah.
That it's nice to see this. It's nice to have, at the end of the year, two teams that were good, and hey, yes, each of them have bad losses. That's the, like, and that, I think, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit here, is what frustrated me so much with when people complain about the championship game that we had, right? Or the championship matchup, is like, oh, well, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, right? Or, hey, Ohio State lost to Michigan. That's the whole point of the 12-team playoff in my mind, right? Is if those teams lose those games in a old format, we're talking about two teams that probably don't make the playoff.
Yeah.
Right? Because Notre Dame's not a conference. They don't play in a conference, right? So they wouldn't have been a conference champion, and they would have had a bad loss. Ohio State, on the other side, lost to Michigan late in the season and ultimately didn't play in their conference title game, so they would have probably been left out of the playoff as well. And you've got two teams here that everybody with a brain can tell you are great teams, right? Absolutely phenomenal. The national championship was littered with NFL talent all over the field on Monday night. And it was a great game, a great finish at the end, right? That's the point of this 12-team playoff is you can now lose those games, right? Still being a great team because, hey, guess what? College football happens. Sometimes you have a bad day. But now you can have a bad day and it doesn't cost you an entire season. It doesn't cost a great team, a potentially national championship level team from missing the college football playoff and missing an opportunity. That's what I really enjoyed about this. And that for me, now that Arizona State has had that opportunity, right? Now that teams like an Indiana and SMU, even teams like an Oregon or a Texas or a Penn State, right? To be able to be like, okay, we can, obviously you want to go undefeated. But if you lose a game here or there, you now have an opportunity to still go to the college football playoff if you handle your business. You still have a chance to go out there and win a national title game. And for me, like that is another big part as
it keeps you alive.
Why Arizona State can succeed.
Yeah, because you still have to be a really good team.
You do.
Like you still have to, like Notre Dame, they still have to be one of the best teams in the country the rest of the way, right? So it's not like the margin for error is slim. It's just a little bit less, or it's like isn't slim. It's just a little bit. I don't know. It's
not season ending.
Yeah, a loss is a season ending, which is like when you are a team like Arizona State and you're in a conference like the Big 12 where crazy things happen, right? You never know. Maybe you lose one game. Maybe you're down your starting quarterback on the road against Cincinnati at 9 a.m. And you lose, right? So these type of things, and especially now like athletes, this is like an overall commentary on sports. Like athletes are just getting better. And there's the same amount of spots that are open. It's the same thing in the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, college sports, high school sports, youth sports, whatever it is. The baseline level for athletes is higher. So when you are playing unranked teams that are quote unquote worse than you, teams that would upset you, like the game that Notre Dame lost.
Northern Illinois.
The athletes on Northern Illinois this year versus 10 versus 20 versus 30 years ago is a mild difference.
Yeah.
Right? So you can play a little bit more free after that, knowing you still have a chance, right? And sometimes like the best teams wake up after losing to the worst teams. I saw the Warriors that lost 9 games lose a game to the tanking Suns, right? Like it happens, right? But how do you respond? So that gives ASU hope, and that gives other teams hope. And if anything, it's going to give you way more competitive regular seasons.
I absolutely loved it. I want to know what you think. I want to know what Captain Redbeard thinks. I want to know what the chat thinks of that first year of the 12-team playoff as it stands right now. No major decisions. Doesn't sound like there's going to be any tweaks, at least right now, to the 2025 college football playoff, whether that be a 14-team bracket, any of that things moving around, first-round buys. Doesn't sound like that's imminent as it stands right now. They didn't rule out that could happen at some point. Obviously, discussions around the 4 highest-ranked conference champions getting first-round buys.
That seems like the only thing that they would
does,
change.
And I would say that is the only thing that I can see in my mind that I would be like, you know what? Okay, if you want to do the seeds 1 through 4 get a bye instead of the 4 conference champions, but the 4 conference champions are still guaranteed.
Still auto bid?
Yeah, I
just
think
not auto.
Exactly.
Top 4 seeds.
I think the 4 major conference champions should always be in the college football playoff. And if you do want to move forward with 1 through 4 in the rankings are the teams that get buys, I'm fine with that.
Maybe some of those players, maybe Arizona State. Oh, it'd be sick. This would never happen. They get to pick their opponent. So the buys get to pick their opponents, and then if any conference champion that didn't get a bye gets to pick the opponents after the top 4 seeds. So like, let's say 3 of the top 4 seeds won their conference too. Right, but they were already just the top seeds. And then whoever is 4th, they would all get to pick their opponents from the pool in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
That would be like nothing the sports world has
Isn't
seen.
that sick? Wouldn't that be sick,
That would be crazy.
Just walk with me here, okay?
I'm walking.
It's January 22nd, so walk with me. And then if you win your conference, but you're not a top 4 seed, your reward is an auto bid, and then you get to pick next. So instead of like, Texas got the 5 seed this year?
I think so.
Yeah, Texas got the 5 seed this year, and people are like, "Man, Texas, they got a rough road, right?" Or Ohio State has a really rough road. Like if you get there, you get to say like, you know what? Like Arizona State, we're drafting Boise State. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Somebody would have probably drafted Arizona State in the first round, and that would have given us a lot of chip on our
It
shoulder.
would be, I mean, you would be praying that you don't get picked by one of the cold schools. You're
would be
praying
sick.
that you don't have to go to Columbus. You're praying you don't have to go to South Bend. You're praying you don't have to go to Penn State. Like, especially those first round games where it's, disgustingly cold outside.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting format for sure.
I mean, it'll never happen.
No,
but
I
I think it would
in the
be
history of our lifetime, you will never see
I think
teams
it'd
be
be
able
fun.
to pick their
Like, I
opponents.
love ideas like that where it would be so much fun, but it just would never happen at all.
But overall, you are happy with 12
Yeah,
team
I'm
play.
happy with. I think it's the right choice. I don't think it should expand. I don't think it should shrink. I think auto bids is good. Top 4 seed doesn't matter as much to me because we didn't see a top 4 seed win this year.
No, you had what, a 6 versus 7?
Right, and but that's the thing is, like, I don't think
that's so awesome.
That's the thing
man.
is, I think at the end of the day now, it doesn't matter as much. You're just going to get the best team to win. I think you have more room for error now. And before, like, you saw like TCUs of the world just get absolutely dominated, right? Like, that was still going to happen, but it is more likely to get a team like Ohio State who just ran through it, but wouldn't have been in the Final Four.
No.
Lots of people pouring in their favorite moments from this season. Let's read those off and give some of our own as well, but let's take another break first.
Yeah.
Pure. What a word.
Pure is
Pure.
4 letters.
4 letters.
Love me a 4-lettered word.
Love a 4-letter word, especially when that 4-letter word leads to delicious edibles like Pure Edibles. Their gummies are not covered in sugar like their competitors, but they also don't just have gummies. They have Kicks, which is their
candy,
version. Dude, they have Kicks, which is their version of Starburst, which is far and away like it tastes exactly like it. It's insane. It's uncandy. Chews, which are like soft candies like caramel.
Uncandy.
And there you go. And hard candies as well. And the best part is the effects of it are clearly listed on the tin. Uplift, relax, sleep, balance, whatever you're looking for. They have a mix of CBN, CBG, CBD, and of course THC as well, all combined into one great tasting edible that you can find in 130 dispensaries statewide. It was created in Flagstaff at Noble Herb Dispensary, and now, of course, they are made in Phoenix to make it easier for you to get it. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of their over 130 dispensaries they can be found in the state of Arizona.
Look, if you are watching the PHNX Sun Devils show today, you're probably thinking to yourself, something's different. Something's up. And you'd be right. Today, I left my Shady Rays in the car.
Insane.
I know. Just a bad move.
I didn't, but I'd never
on my part.
wear my sunglasses without you out of solidarity.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Even in my
We're Shady
personal
Rays
life.
bros.
I don't wear my sunglasses in my personal life if I know that you're not wearing them.
I love that. Love that. Not as much as I love Shady Rays, though. Guys, get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends over at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that aren't going to break the bank. Look, whether you're an Arizona State fan or a fan of maybe another Big 12 team, or maybe you're just showing up today, right? Maybe you have a favorite color. Well, guess what? Whether it's you got a favorite color,
Okay.
you got a favorite team, maybe you got a favorite candy. They've probably got a color for you. They've got a style that's going to fit you, right? Me, Captain Redbeard, Erik Ruby, we all have very different styles in Shady Rays. Well, they have us all covered exclusively for our listeners. Shady Rays giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use that code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shade's rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
It's a lot of people.
It's a ton of people.
Got a lot of people in the chat sounding off about their favorite moments. John says Kenny celebrating with fans who rushed the field against
That's
Utah.
a good one.
That was awesome.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, David says Cam 262-yard game.
Mississippi State.
That was a good one.
First SEC win in program history.
Yeah. Desert Stro says my favorite part was reading trash talk in the chat leading up to the UT matchup. Kyle,
Anytime
Captain Redbeard.
Scat ran the ball.
anytime Scat ran the ball.
It's a good one.
Shay says honorable mention the game-saving interception at the end of the BYU game.
That was a fire.
That was maybe
a season-saving.
that was maybe the loudest pop of the season.
That was crazy.
Because that in like the Big 12 championship was a loud pop, but neutral site game, big stadium. Same thing with the Peach Bowl, big pop, loud stadium. But like at Mountain America Stadium during the season, there were a lot of pretty big pops. I think the Jayden interception was the biggest.
The Jayden interception was fire.
That or the Cam run against Utah.
Which one?
The game sealing one where he kept his balance. Yeah.
We should do a show in the summer of
Just
our top
all the
10
moments.
plays.
Absolutely.
ASU's the top 10 plays of ASU's.
That could be for the 24-hour
season.
stream. Shay also said the 3 successive turnovers created by our defense in the Big 12 championship game. That I remember sitting there and I did this all season, sitting next to the press box because we can't be loud.
No.
All I would do, if you're listening on audio, you might want to jump over. But I'll just go like
I did remember. There was a point where I'm like, Eric, if you hit me again, we're gonna have a problem,
dude. Because I am a very expressive person. Like I wanted to scream.
And
like,
it wasn't just like.
No,
it was like,
I was like, dude.
After the third one, I was like, dude, if you hit me again, we are gonna have a problem, especially sleeping in the same bed in Texas. My goodness. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, the college football playoff, I think everybody is in agreement. 12-team format is the way to go moving forward. I think we all agree that Arizona State moving forward can have continued success, can have sustainable success. I don't think that this is the sleeping giant thing. I think that's a bad narrative for this. I think the program in and of itself is like a lot of programs, right? It has an opportunity to be really, really good, but to be really, really good, you have to be consistent. And you've seen a lot of teams over the years, whether it be a Cincinnati or a TCU, when they have their moments, not be consistent the year after, right? I think that question is not just an Arizona State thing this next season. I think everybody is going to be super hyper-focused on Arizona State, Boise State, SMU, and Indiana because they were in the college football playoff last year, because they were teams that going into the year, no one was like, hey, this is a college football playoff team, but they all did it, right? So can you have sustained success after being in the college football playoff, especially an expanded format of that? That's the question, I think, going into the 2025 season. And I think for me, the answer to that question is absolutely. I do want to shift gears going from Arizona State football to Arizona State basketball, because Arizona State basketball is fresh off of a really, really big win over number 23, West Virginia. We talked about it last night. If you missed the postgame show, go check that out. Arizona State, that win was nice. It was their best win of the season. With that said, you need to continue. You need to continue to find ways to string together wins. And you have a matchup on Saturday against Iowa State that is going to be an absolute it's going to be a dogfight, I feel like. You're going up against a top 3 team in the nation.
16-2, 6-1 in conference.
Their only losses were to
number 4 at the time,
who
Auburn.
has been number 1. Auburn has been 1 in the country.
And West Virginia, who ASU just beat.
On the road.
On the road, which is why West Virginia's home court advantage was crazy good. And ASU won on the road, which is a great win for them. But they beat, and again, ASU gets destroyed by Kansas. They beat Kansas 74-57, right? This is a team that steps up for big moments. They hung 108 on UCF, the team that Arizona State lost to, right? Texas Tech is a good team. They stormed back on the road to beat Texas Tech. That was a crazy game. They demolished the bad teams. They destroyed Utah 82-59. They beat then ranked Baylor, number 25 Baylor, I believe coming off of an ASU win. No, wait, that was before that. They beat then number 25 Baylor 74-55. Beat Colorado by 10. And before that, they took care of business against everybody. Everybody except for Auburn.
It's what they do. They take care of business. Look, I know we were just talking about football, but you want to talk about somebody that's consistently good, right? That's what this team is. Iowa State was really good last year. Going into this season, they're legit, right? They're top of the Big 12 in points per game, field goal percentage. They're top 2 in getting to the charity stripe. They're best in the Big 12 in steals. They're bottom 3 in turning over the basketball and fouling. Like, this is a clean team all the way through. And when you watch them, you can tell, this is why they're 16-2, right? They don't have mental mistakes. They are consistent game over game. And it's not just like a one-guy show, right? Iowa State, they've got a number of different players that can hurt you, whether that be Curtis Jones or Keshawn Gilbert, who both of which are averaging over 15 points a game. They're deep. They got a deep rotation of guys too.
They're built to win ugly college basketball games. Like in college basketball, to upset teams, you need to make them turn the ball over, right? They need to go cold shooting.
And they don't turn the ball over.
Right. Like, they need to have like a specific kind of weakness that you can make things ugly. So they also beat then number 5, now number 10, Marquette in a Big 12 Big East battle. That might have been on a neutral site. Let me see. No, Hilton Coliseum is their arena. So no, it was at home for them. But they've taken down really good teams.
Beat Kansas by 17 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this team is like, I don't know how many different ways we could tell you that they're a good basketball team. In reality, I think the one way that Arizona State can beat this team is you look back to, you try and find a weakness. And I would say the weakness of Iowa State is their 3-point shooting, right? They don't take a ton of threes, and they're not necessarily the greatest 3-point shooting team in the world. They're not the worst, but they just don't take a ton of threes, right? So I think for Arizona State, you need offensively, right, to get going quickly. You need to build off of what you did offensively in your last game against West Virginia, where, hey, it's Bashir, it's Quaintance, it's, it's Adam Miller when he needs it. This is a game where you need Josan Sannon back. You need Josan Sannon if you're going to win this game, because you need that offensive output consistently to grow a lead to where Iowa State is forced to try and get back in the game shooting threes. Now, obviously, that is a big ask for Arizona State to build a lead against a top 3 team in the country that, again, plays great defense, doesn't foul, doesn't turn over the ball, and shoots from the floor overall really well, just doesn't take a ton of threes, right? That's how you I think maybe can attempt to try and beat this team, is you build a lead early and you just pray to God your defense shows up the way that it did.
Well, right. I mean, how do you win this game? It's the defense.
Yeah.
It's the suffocating defense. That's how you beat West Virginia, right? You turned the ball over a lot against West Virginia, which was not great, but you dominated on the rebounds. You dominated defending on the 3-point line and within it. You held their best scorer in check. The only way that he really got busy was getting to the free throw line, which is definitely something that they could do, Iowa State. But you have to lean into that kind of identity, and those type of teams can beat an Iowa State. Josan Sannon is maybe the biggest key, though. I don't think you beat this team unless in this current iteration of who's playing, you're fully healthy.
Yeah.
Right? You need that offense to pair with your defense, right? Like, you need Jayden Quaintance to limit turnovers. You need Bashir Jihad to have an all-around 3-level scoring game. They have to continue to run some set plays like they did in the second half as well. This is not a team that you can improvise against at all. But at the end of the day, if they can hold Iowa State to a low field goal percentage and not turn the ball over on their end, which is a pretty big ask considering the last game.
It's at home too, by the way.
Yeah, at home. I think you are set up to, like, you can always see an upset, man. Like, again, people will count out Arizona State basketball all the time, and I get that people like want to be out on them, or like on an overall like big picture perspective, you're like, oh, I just don't buy it. Game to game basis, Arizona State could beat any team in the country, because that's just the DNA of a Bobby Hurley team. Is they could walk into your house or their house.
It's a talented team.
It could be a 99% matchup predictor on whatever has it. Arizona State will always fight and have a chance.
Absolutely. The one thing that you can confidently say about Arizona State basketball is they can win and lose any game. Does not matter who they are playing. I agree with you. It could be number 1 Kansas on the road. They can win that game. Or it could be a bad Washington State team. It could be a San Francisco squad. They could lose by 40.
No, right.
They can win or lose any game.
Here's the Arizona State men's basketball message. Anything can happen.
Yes.
You could be playing the worst team in the country, D3, NAIA, the school for the deaf and the blind. I don't care. Arizona State could lose that game with multiple 5-stars on the roster. Okay, you walk into the number 1 team in the country who hasn't allowed a single bucket the entire year, and you have a roster full of walk-ons. Arizona State can win that.
It's Bobby Hurley ball.
Like, anything can happen.
It's Bobby Hurley ball.
Everything is on the table with Arizona State basketball, and that's why it's hard not to get excited about games like Saturdays.
Yeah,
because you walk into it the same way you walked into Kansas, and you walked out at halftime against Kansas, and you think to yourself, hey, they could do this.
Yeah.
Right? And Tony says, OMG, delusional people. It's not delusion. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Like, Arizona State,
great teams
like,
before.
It's not delusional to say that, this basketball team could lose to really bad teams. It's also not delusional to say that they could beat really good teams. Like, that's the good and the bad part of it. It's the problem and the solution. Like, that is Arizona State basketball.
And they have talented players. That's the thing, right? And I think that's what's frustrating for Arizona State fans is you see so much talent at, in small windows, right? Jayden Quaintance over the last 3 games is averaging 16 points a game, 12 boards, and 4 blocks.
Yeah.
Right? There's 12 games, 13 games left in the season, and he just broke the freshman single season block record with
Dude,
57
so
blocks.
stupid.
Like, he's a talented player, right? When Josan Sandin's playing, you see how talented he is. Bashir Jihad has his moments. BJ Freeman has his moments. That's what's frustrating about this team is, unlike really, really good college basketball teams, it feels like over the years, they show you the windows, but the window's not fully open for a full season, right? I don't see all these guys be this consistent offensively and defensively all season long. That's what I think gives you the hope that this team can beat in Iowa State at home is, hey, we've seen it before. Heck, you're fresh off a big road win against a top 25 team. Everybody showed up. And actually, I would say maybe everybody didn't show up. Austin Mason didn't show up.
Dude, you
Josan
absolutely
didn't play.
The thing about West Virginia is that you did not play like a great game. You did great things, but you did not play a great game. You turned the ball over like crazy.
Yeah. They turned over a lot, though.
15 turnovers. They had 6, right? But then you look at reboundings, 46 rebounds to 28, right? Field goal percentage, 48.1 to 31. Let's just buy the numbers again, right? Free throws, West Virginia, they shot 20, they hit 17. Like, you shot poorly from free throw. You shot 10 to 17. That's 58.8%. This game against West Virginia could have been a 20, 25 point blowout.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It should have been.
You don't turn the ball over. You dominate on defense and rebounding like you did before. You hit your free throws, and you hit your threes. They shot 29% from 3, 5 of 17. West Virginia shot 4 of 29. You gave up a lot of threes. You didn't play a great game.
No.
But you played a good enough game to beat this kind of team, right? And if you get Josan Sandin back, if you get offensive production from Austin Mason, if you cut down on the turnovers from everybody, but specifically Jayden Quaintance, who had 1/3 of the teams with 5, you can look at this team and you can map it out and you can go, okay, they did that against the number 23 team in the country who beat the team we're about to play on Saturday. And we beat them on the road, where Iowa State couldn't, right? Jayden Quaintance continues to get better. That's part of the recipe. Josan Sandin needs to get healthy. That's part of the recipe.
How much do you need him to play on Saturday?
Sandin?
Yeah. Like, if you had to give me a
90%.
percentage, 90%.
I don't need him to be the best player on the court. I need to be one of the 3 best players.
I need him to just play. I need you got to keep everybody fresh. You need a couple shots. You need Josan Sandin to play in this game if you want to beat an Iowa State. I just don't think if you don't have him, I don't know if the depth is there to really run the floor with Iowa State for 2 halves.
No, because Iowa State is going to take advantage, and I like Trevor Best. I wish him the best. But Iowa State's the type of team, the number 3 team in the country, is going to take advantage of a guy who's played 3 minutes of college basketball and was in high school 2 months ago. And it's no offense to him; it's impressive to him that he even got on the floor. But it'd be pretty stupid to expect him to play against the number 3 team in the country.
Yeah.
But they had to find a minute for Austin Mason to sit down in his 39 minutes, right? And Adam Miller in his 38 minutes. A team like Iowa State's going to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
The difference between, even though West Virginia beat them, between the number 3 team and the number 23 team in the country is pretty dang big.
It's
right?
massive.
So you have to cut down on all the poor parts. Like, Austin Mason got to shoot better. Bashir Jihad, you got to take more shots. Keep getting the line, but you got to take more than 7 field goal attempts, right? BJ Freeman needs to shoot more efficiently as well. 5 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3, 2 of 4 from the line. If you get a good BJ game, if you get Bashir Jihad doing the same type of scoring, maybe a little bit more.
Another JQ performance.
Another double-double from JQ, even if it's not 15 points, but if you add a couple steals in there, maybe a few more rebounds, hit a couple free throws, right? Okay, you're cooking a little bit. Austin Mason, he's going to play 39 minutes. Maybe he scores 10 points.
He needs to be taking he needs to have practice off.
He needs to just sit.
Yeah.
Like, every time that he's not playing basketball, he needs to be in the cryo chamber.
Well, and that's, again, why you need Josan Sandin, right? Is so you can move around some of these guards so that Austin Mason doesn't have to play 39 minutes. Because I think in this last game, you saw the impact of it, right? You saw him score 2 points all night. I think he was 1 of 7 from the field. Like, you could see that it started to get to him. He was gassed, right? He didn't have the same level of like, just pure execution, right? He couldn't drive. He couldn't shoot. He looked gassed. And that's understandable. Now you have a solid handful of days between, going home and playing Iowa State. Like, that was your last game of a wild road trip. And now you're good. Now you're back at home and you can take care of business against a really good team and get back to where, you need to be, right? Realistically, and kind of looking past Iowa State, right? Your next 3 are Iowa State, Colorado, Arizona. You probably have to go 2-1 in that stretch.
Yeah, because you didn't take advantage of the stretch before. And
Yeah.
take advantage is such a rough term because it is the Big 12 and it's hard. But
You lost winnable games.
You open the Big 12 play against BYU on the road. You laid an absolute stinker. You got destroyed. BYU is not a great team, 3-4 in conference, right?
Yeah.
Not a great team for the Big 12. They're 12-6 overall, 3-4 in conference, right? You destroyed Colorado. Good job. Lost to Kansas. Okay, understandable. Home against Baylor in overtime.
That one is the one that hurts.
That's a tough loss. Baylor's a good team. Tough loss. Even worse was the next game, losing to UCF.
Yeah.
Right? A team that's had 100+ hung on them a couple times. Then you follow that up with a loss at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Not good. Those 3 games, Baylor, UCF, Cincinnati, going 0-3 there means you have to. You have to, over the next 3 games against Iowa State, Colorado, Arizona, go 2-3. So if you lose on Saturday,
2-1.
2-1. If you lose on Saturday, you need to beat Colorado, Arizona, and then you face Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU before you play Houston.
Which you need to win all those games.
Texas Tech's a good team. Texas
but if we're talking going
Texas
into the
Tech
NCAA
is 14-4, 5-2 in conference. They're currently 4th in the Big 12. They are ahead of Kansas in the Big 12 by half a game because they played an extra game. I think you can, if we're talking about making the tournament, you can lose that game, but you can only lose that game against Texas Tech if you beat both Arizona and Kansas State before that. If you lose to either Arizona or Kansas State, you need to beat Tech. And against Colorado, Oklahoma State, and TCU, you need to win all of those games.
Yeah.
TCU's 3-3 in conference, 10-7 overall. Kansas State is 7-10 overall, 1-5 in conference. You need to beat Kansas State. And Colorado, you've already beaten them. They're 500. They haven't won a Big 12 game yet.
No.
Right? So non-negotiable wins for Arizona
You just
State.
have to go on a run.
Right. Well, no, not okay. A run's tough because you're going to run into an Iowa State. Okay, you're going to run into a Houston, but you need to win the non-negotiables, and you need to win a couple of the upsets. You need to beat Colorado, non-negotiable. You need to beat Kansas State, non-negotiable. You need to beat Oklahoma State, non-negotiable, and you need to beat TCU, non-negotiable. Okay,
That's how many games though?
That is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 out of your next 7 games, non-negotiable. You have to win. Then you're looking at 8 games, because then you're looking at Iowa State, Arizona, Texas Tech, Houston. You need to win 2 of those games.
Yeah.
And it preferably against an Iowa State or a Houston.
Least.
Right? So if you're losing to the top 10 teams, if you're losing to Iowa State and you're losing to Houston,
then you have to sweep Arizona
and Texas Tech.
2
good teams.
Yeah.
Like you cannot afford to lose to Colorado, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU.
No, you cannot. You absolutely can't. Will in the chat backing you up saying you guys need to go 4-2 over the next 6 at worst going into the Houston game, right? Like at worst, I agree with you, right? Like you said, you have to be Colorado, you have to be Kansas State, you have to be Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State, again, every team in this conference plays tough, right?
Sure.
Not every team in this conference is good, but every team will play you tough. And if they got you on the ropes at the end, anything can happen. So I agree. You need to beat Colorado, which I guess I know it's Colorado. Guess what? You're on the road. That's a tough place to play. Obviously, you have the altitude switch, right? That's always been a tough place to play in the Pac-12, right? Then you got Kansas State at home. It's a late tip. It's an 8 p.m. tip. You got to win that basketball game. Then you're back on the road against Oklahoma State. Got to win that game. Then you're at Texas Tech. I think you have to either beat Tech on the road or Iowa State or Arizona at home. Would you agree? You have to beat one of those teams. Because even if you're winning all of these games that we're saying are gimme games, at the end of the year,
those aren't going to be the ones.
They're not marquee wins.
And that's the thing. Sharon says, you mean preferably against Arizona? Yes, I would prefer ASU to beat Arizona. Statistically speaking, in the eyes of the people who are going to be picking who plays in March, beating... If you're going to beat 2 of those upset teams, Iowa State and Houston would give you the best chances of getting in. For morale, beating Arizona is a must.
Yeah, I think beating Iowa State and then beating Arizona are going to be huge games. Obviously, the Iowa State one is going to be massive going into NCAA tournament discussions. And realistically, like you look at the rest of the way, like Iowa State and Houston are realistically Arizona State's last chances to get those top 10 wins. I know some of these other teams are good. They're not going to fall.
Top 10, absolutely
They're not going to crawl all the way to the top 10. By the end of the season, Texas Tech is not a top 10 team.
No.
Arizona's not a top 10 team.
And
That's it. So Houston and Iowa State are your last chances in my mind to go get like, hey, this is a win big enough to push you into the tournament.
Signature season defining wins.
Yeah.
Like West Virginia's win over Iowa State means more than their loss to Arizona State.
Absolutely. West Virginia, again, there's a reason why West Virginia was number 23 in the nation at now 13-5, right? It's because they have marquee wins.
Yes.
They beat Arizona when they were ranked. They beat Gonzaga when they were a top 10 team. They beat Kansas on the road. They beat Iowa State. Like, they have their marquee wins.
Right. And so losing, like, they lost to Houston. Okay. They lost to Arizona by 20. Not great, right? That's the revenge game for Arizona. Okay. And they lose to Arizona State. Okay. If they beat Houston when they play them in 2 games, they're automatically in the tournament.
Yeah, and I don't even think they need to beat Houston. I think again,
I'm just saying if they just continue to lose to teams like Arizona State.
That's their thing, right? Like they have opportunities now because they've set themselves up early in the season, right, to where they have their marquee wins. If they go win their gimme games, they're going to be fine. And when it comes tournament time, Arizona State does not have that option right now. JJB in the chat, minus Kansas State and Colorado. Every win is a good win in the Big 12. I think they're good wins, but they're not tournament like signature wins.
Yeah, it's going to help them, but if you're talking about this team right now that's already lost to, and I'm going to be honest with you, JJ, he knows so much about college basketball, so much.
He's an ASU
and so like
ball hooper.
I trust his opinion a lot. And I agree that, they're good wins, as in you're going to get credit for them. But having already lost to BYU, having lost to, Kansas is good, but Baylor, UCF, Cincinnati, right? If you continue to stack those kinds of L's, like let's say you do lose to Oklahoma State or TCU or Tech or whatever, and you don't have the wins against an Iowa State or a Houston, it's going to get really hard to make your argument.
It's going to make it impossible.
If you lose to Iowa State and you lose to Houston, you don't have any signature wins, and you lose to teams like Cincinnati, and you lose to teams like BYU.
You're not going to the tournament.
It doesn't matter if you still have a good record. Those other wins I don't think will be enough, except for like maybe best case scenario, if there's a lot of respect for the Big 12, which is on the table. Best case scenario, you're fighting in the first four.
Yeah, and even then, like, you'd have to win a game or two in the Big 12 tournament. Like
to do something.
Yeah, to do something. Like, your chances of making the NCAA tournament are so slim if you don't beat Iowa State or Houston. Again, simply because you just don't have the signature wins to really warrant you getting in.
Question for you to end the show.
Okay.
What is more important for Arizona State? Avoiding the necessary win or the necessary losses, like teams they absolutely should beat, right? These mid to low losses. Is it more important for them not to lose those games or to beat either Iowa State or Houston? What's more important?
I would say getting a win over Iowa State or Houston.
Because if they beat Iowa State on Saturday and then they go through the rest of Big 12 play and they lose to TCU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Colorado, like they just start dropping a lot of those games. Like, but that's the thing, is like keeping pace. What I'm talking about is like if they're struggling to keep pace.
I think
because if you lose to Iowa State and you lose to Houston, but you run the table besides that,
that's not enough.
Oh, I think I disagree.
It's not enough. No, you don't have a signature win.
Oh, I disagree with that.
If they run the table outside
of Houston. If they run the table outside of Iowa State and Houston in the Big 12, they are 1,000% a tournament team. We're talking about a team that will end the season with 9 losses.
That'd be a lot of wins.
With 9 losses.
Yeah.
Absolutely tournament team.
It's just, again, I wouldn't feel great
not going to
about
happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah, I guess
they need both. They need a healthy balance of both.
You're right. You just need to not be bad at basketball.
You can expect tough games and you can expect some losses in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Right? You can't say Arizona State needs to not lose to the mid and the bad teams and upset every good team.
No, you just need to play
a healthy
quality
balance.
basketball.
Yeah.
You need to play quality basketball, which we've seen recently that this team can do. Guys, that is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devil Show. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We really do appreciate everybody watching live, listening on audio, or, of course, tuning in after the fact. If you enjoy the content, you can give us a follow at PHNX underscore Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony underscore Totri. You can follow this guy here at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with a K. You can follow the captain of this beautiful vessel, Captain Redbeard, at K Coop Sports. We will be back on Friday. No show on Thursday. So we will see you then. In the meantime, go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.